excuse me. I can't.
Welcome to the Duality Gamecast, sponsored by Gladiator Games. Today's Battle Royale episode features a review of Imperial Settlers.
Welcome to the Duality Gamecast. I'm Matt, lifelong gamer and your host for today.
I'm Andre, I'm a social gamer.
And I'm William, a board game designer.
Today we're going to be talking about Imperial Settlers by Portal Games, designed by Ignacy Trzewiczek. This hit the convention circuit this summer and got a lot of good buzz. It is a game for 1 to 4 players, uses cards and cool little wood tokens, and we're going to take a look at it and see what we think. Alright, let's jump right in by talking about the components and artwork for this game.
I thought it was put together pretty well. Cardboard pieces, wooden, like solid wooden tokens that you could really hand around and play with. I thought as far as the usability of the pieces, it was great.
Yeah, I agree. And generally the overall art has this really cute, kind of round, fun, like youthful type of energy to it. Overall, though, the components, what I liked about them is that there wasn't a lot of color confusion. A lot of games, you have pieces on the board, that type of stuff that, you'll be a red piece, but you have red resources. It starts to get a little weird, and this was really clean, and you didn't have any of that type of crossover.
Absolutely. My first impression of this game was, it looks like Small World. That's what I got right off the bat. This lighthearted, painted, but kind of cartoony looking artwork. It's warm and happy, but at the same time you're colonizing lands and burning buildings to the ground, which is kind of ironic. The wood pieces were great. You got little wooden apples, little wooden pieces of stone, which doesn't make any sense. Little wooden pieces of wood. Little meeples for your workers. Cardstock maybe a little lightweight, I thought, but not real bad. The iconography I thought was really good.
Yes.
Really strong on the iconography. So the art and the components fit the mechanics and the theme really well. I'd say it's a win on those two. So how about the mechanics? Does this game work well?
What I like about the mechanics is that they're relatively simple. You've got your decks, you've got your resource gathering, you've got a really light combat system, but it's simple, it's easy to understand, and that puts the focus of the game on the cards that you're getting and the civilization building aspect of it, which I think is fun because it generates a story as you go.
Yep. Also, it has, because you're drawing cards from a deck and you're not going to get through all the cards in your deck in one game, there's a huge amount of variance in it. So I think that's kind of built in. Every time you play, your race is going to be completely different. I know we played one time, the Egyptians had this crazy point engine, and that's all they did the whole game. They ignored everybody else. The next time they still kind of were point engine, but it worked in a completely different way, and they used different resources. And I found that kind of interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Couple things I want to point out. Rulebook clarity is real important to me, and this was a real simple to read rulebook. It had an index explaining specific cards. It explains special rules. The Japanese faction in particular has its own special rules, and it explained those really clearly. Much easier rulebook than some we've dealt with recently. One little nitpick on the cards is some of the iconography is really small. You have faction logos on your cards that are tiny, and that sometimes I miss that completely. But it doesn't really impact the game very much, so it's just a nitpick. As far as the decks and using the cards, you have a common deck of cards plus your own unique faction deck, which really makes this game an asymmetrical power type of game, which I thought was really fun. You're blending these common cards with your faction's cards, trying to find the ones that match your faction the best, but that's not going to happen every time, so kind of like you said, the game's going to be different every time. But overall, it worked really smoothly. Playtime is listed at about an hour. That's probably reasonable once you know how to play the game. So it is probably a good little middleweight game, maybe we call this.
Yeah, because you don't spend it doesn't have the brain burning aspect to it too that a lot of those games have. I mean, you're building an empire, you're gathering resources, and you're kind of making these decisions. But usually, it's between just a handful of cards you're picking from, and there's something we kind of glossed over a little bit. There's a draft mechanic. Mm. So the generic cards everybody's picking, you're not just drawing some at random. You're actually drafting them. So you do get to pick stuff that's kind of in line with your faction. So that worked out well and kept the game moving too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the learning curve wasn't all that bad either. I joined after you guys had played a game, and I felt a little intimidated in the first round. I get that way with games that have like a limited number of rounds. I feel like I'm wasting that first one learning the game, but some of the gains I made in the first round really helped me later on. And once you get a little bit of time under your feet, you get rolling pretty easily, and you just slide right into it.
Yeah, it's a 5-round turn limit. Person with most victory points wins. So you do have some pressure, time pressure going on there, but not nearly the pressure I would feel in like Agricola.
Right.
Oh my gosh. I would never call this Misery Settlers the way I call that Misery Farm. You don't feel that level of pressure. So I think that's mechanics.
Yes.
So the most important part of any game, fun and replayability. Let's talk about that.
I had a blast. I had a lot of fun playing this game. There's just enough combat, or the threat of combat, that you could have fun with the people you're playing with. You could kind of threaten that you're going to burn their village down, and you may or may not, and that's always nice. I like a little bit of competition, not too much so it turns into a game of Risk and we end up strangling each other, but just enough so that you can have a good time playing. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, it definitely has replayability. Every time you play it, the culture you pick is going to work completely different, and that can be a pro or a con, because depending on how the cards and the orders that come out, you can have an awesome engine right out the gate in your starting hand and have a complete path set, or you might be stumbling for the first few rounds, and that can cause a problem if in a 5-round game, 2 rounds down, you're already down 40% of the game and you finally get going. But it definitely has replayability because of its variance.
Yeah, for sure. I see the replayability several ways. There's 4 factions, so boom, right there is 4 ways to play. But every one of those factions is like a puzzle. And I've played 2 different factions, and I don't feel like I've completed the puzzle on either one. So I need a lot of replayability. I liked what you said, Dre. We actually in that game had people threatening reprisals and things. So we didn't see a lot of open warfare, but there was the threats of it, which made it kind of fun too. So a lot of fun there. The theme, I think, is kind of fun. It kind of comes through in the art.
And it comes through just in the gameplay, too, I think. You really do. You're kind of isolated. You're kind of doing your own thing, but you are occasionally looking over there and like, what can I go over there and pillage from that person and maybe mess them up, or just to help myself?
Yeah, because you were like burning people down just to get their wood.
Yeah.
And
burn things to the ground to get wood. Makes sense.
All right, so that sounds like 3 funs to me.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get down to the ratings for this game. We use a very simple 4-point rating system. At the top is must buy. Next off is love it, followed by like it, and then pass.
Ugh.
So what do you think?
I'm going to give it love it. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a fun game to play with people. There's enough replayability in there so that you could keep playing your faction, or you can try something new. The mechanics are very easy, which makes it really easy to approach and really easy to get new players in. So I'm all for it.
I'm going to give it a like it. I think the game's fun. I enjoyed playing it, but because of the slight inconsistencies maybe on your starting draws, I feel like I could maybe get some situations where my opening hands might frustrate me and make maybe me not like an entire game experience as a result. But in general, fun game. It's fun to play. It's quick, but I'm giving it a like it.
All right. I'm going to call it a love it. I purchased this game, but I don't really feel it's unique enough that I'm going to recommend, oh my gosh, you're a gamer, go buy this game. But it is fun, and I would definitely play it whenever offered to. They have expansions coming for it that I'm kind of excited about too. Different factions and new cards. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to explore this game some more. So definitely a love it for me. So that's Imperial Settlers by Ignacy Trevicek and Portal Games. I hope our review helped you guys make your decisions today. If you have any comments, please leave them below. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks.
Thank you.
For more information on the Duality Gamecast or our sponsor, visit us on Twitter and Facebook. Thanks for tuning in.
It's on. Intro! I don't know why I have to do that every time, but thank you. Take one. Take one. Components in art. Take two. All right.
You didn't say components in art.
Sorry, components in art.